so much of 2021 was establishing a presence just for our name, not every unique intricacy and thing that makes us just incredible at what we do. Just who are you?
Right.
Do you exist? I'm going to see your name and I'm going to know exactly the companies that make that up, the people that make that up. So much of our efforts in 2021 were at that highest level of establishing brand recognition. And so in 2022, we're able to be much more strategic and dig deeper in how we're going to go about marketing Jencap. And the part that's really fun for me, which is funny to be sitting here on a podcast with you, is we have so many unbelievable brokers that make up the Jencap organization, and they're not all things to all people. They are truly industry specialists in what they do, and I can't wait to highlight them and really, really get our unique specialization to the marketplace instead of that bigger blanket of here's who we are, here's what we do, let's dig deep now.
On today's episode of The Claw, I'm joined by Kathryn Smith. She's the Managing Director of Marketing for Jencap. In today's world where a lot of companies are doing M&A activity, Kathryn has been through that experience, pulling a bunch of brands up underneath one umbrella. She's going to talk to you about what it takes and what challenges are there, and then what it's going to look like in the future. Join us and listen into the conversation today on The Claw. Welcome to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist of Liger Partners. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives, and I am joined today by someone who is in that category. It's Kathryn Smith. She's the Managing Director of Marketing for Jencap.
Yes.
Good, I said that all right.
You did, and it's very weird being in this seat because I'm typically the one in your seat asking questions. So I don't really like this. I'm going to try to flip it and take over the Claw.
Hey, let's do that. We could try. It'd be like this power struggle on the entire thing. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who Jencap is.
So Jencap is a national wholesaler. We are in a really unique position as a company because a year ago, we were simply a holdings company and no one knew who Jencap was. We were simply the behind-the-scenes umbrella that owned 11 or so disparate wholesale entities in the insurance marketplace. And we have gone through the effort in the last year to bring up our affiliate companies into the Jencap brand. So if you had asked someone a year ago who was Jencap, they would have said, we have no idea.
Right.
But today, fortunately, thanks to Plug to Liger's help on our rebrand, we truly are an incredible national platform. We're the fourth largest wholesaler in the country and just have unbelievable expertise in every area of the insurance industry. So it makes my job really easy to market Jencap because I just feel so passionate about what our value proposition is to the marketplace.
And so did you originally start in Jencap world?
So I came by way of one of the companies that Jencap bought.
Okay.
So that's how I found my way into the Jencap world. It was also by acquisition.
They acquired not only companies, but some, intellectual property assets and human capital and things like that.
Yeah, it worked out well for me.
Yeah. And so getting into the company that you were with before and like just the whole insurance space, like how did you end up there, and then how did you end up in a marketing seat?
Oh, this is sort of a funny story. You may never have even heard this.
I don't know that I do. What is the Kathryn Smith origin story?
Oh, okay. So
I know your superpowers. So now we're looking for the origin
when
story.
I graduated from college, I was a naive, the world's going to knock on my door, typical college graduate. Moved to Atlanta, didn't know a soul, and was going to have this highfalutin PR job. I graduated with a degree in public relations, and the world of marketing really shut down in the summer of 2008 when
Talk about timing.
Yeah, exactly. So I moved here, didn't exactly go as planned, and was working for a furniture company that my family knew just to try to pay bills, and finally got to the point when I realized I'm the only one who can change this outcome for myself. So I joined every single young professionals organization I could find online and just flipped the switch and said, make it happen.
Right.
Or go home and live in your mom's basement. And that wasn't an option. So I went to a networking event, and the facilitator of the networking event said, look to the person to your right or left and basically say what you're looking for.
Right.
And I turned to someone that I said, I'm looking for a marketing position. And he just so happened to be an agent for American Family Insurance and said, well, I can't really help you with marketing, but you are definitely a salesperson and, you have a commanding personality. So I'll hire you to sell insurance and I'll pay for you to get licensed and so forth. So that's how I act. I mean, most people don't intend to be in insurance. It's always interesting when you meet people who have a risk management degree. You're like, you meant to do this? But yeah, I have an interesting, background because I've been on the carrier side, I've been on the agent side, and now on the wholesale side, which is really the only sides you can scan the insurance world. So it's nice to have that perspective and that experience.
Yeah, it helps you with like what they care about, what the messaging should be, how to get to them. So knowing each one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I had not heard that story.
I'm much better as a marketing person than an insurance salesperson, but it was good experience.
How about furniture?
Oh, see, I was literally making pennies for my job, but hanging out with all the top rappers in Atlanta, truly.
Oh, wow.
So it was.
Wow. So you're selling that kind of furniture.
Yeah, it was a
That's
furniture
awesome.
showroom in Atlanta where they were building custom furniture for T.I. and Akon and Ludacris and Jazzy Faye and all the top ball players. So I was broke, but I would go to T.I.'s house and party.
I too have been.
I've been in Neo's house.
No,
I've been in all these interesting celebrities' houses because I was completely broke, making no money, but helping them with their furniture. So it was a fun entry into Atlanta. I really got the it's really the quintessential fake it till you make it. I was faking it because I had not made it.
So a little secret about Ingrid. So she's our producer for video and stuff because she's helped you with stuff, and she really likes all the Real Housewives and reality show things. Mm-hmm. And so you were doing that about the time the Real Housewives of Atlanta started. Yeah. So it was kind of about that time frame. So yeah, she told us we had to start watching. So we're on season 2 or 3 right now.
Ingrid, I won't hold that against you. Not my jam, but that's okay.
Okay. So you're, with a company that ends up being acquired, and then you kind of move up into the corporate structure. And what's interesting is you talk about, really, the Jencap was already a very large company. It just wasn't well known and sort of formed in a way that made it look that way.
It was truly just a holdings company.
Yeah.
It was never intended to be an outward-facing brand.
Okay.
And there's been so much consolidation in the insurance industry, and it just made sense for us to aggregate our collective clout in the marketplace and be that much more of a powerful force. And it is working.
Yeah. So in thinking about that, because there's a lot of M&A activity going on right now. Yeah. We're talking to companies all over the place that are either acquiring or being acquired, or, it just seems to be a huge kind of consolidation. And I'm not sure if it's just that there's a lot of money in the market right now or that there's not enough talent. So that's a way to get talent, or both, going through that, and, you've been tasked somehow, and I'm not sure how you ended up with that, but the task to hey, let's bring all these up underneath one umbrella. What were some of the things that you had to navigate?
This is too short of a podcast.
I'm sure it was simple, right? It was like one day you decided to do this, and the next day.
It's hard. We're human, and it's no wonder that the individuals who have done a phenomenal job building their brands, it's your baby. Yeah. It just is what it is. You don't want to let go of that, but there's also light on the other side of knowing that you can be bigger, you can be better, you can have more clout in the marketplace. You can tap into some of these additional resources that you don't necessarily have as a singular, smaller regional wholesaler. So I think we were lucky with Jencap's rebrand process and that everyone was already on board as it related to this makes sense.
Right.
This makes sense for us to all become Jencap. So it wasn't a matter of convincing people if it made sense to do it. It was how we were going to go about doing it. And kind of creating the rule book while we were already 2 rebrands in. Sort of. We had a pretty short timeline, and, you know, that's the fun part of it. The stressful and fun part of it is just sort of whipping out your guns and being cowboy about it and making it work. I would say, successfully rebranded upwards of 12 brands this year.
Yeah.
Whether to the Jencap name or to be a specific brand within an intentional rebrand of a company that's not becoming Jencap. I did a bad job of explaining that, but
No, it makes sense. And it's very entrepreneurial the way, you know, you're talking about building the tracks as the train's going down it. That's kind of part of what you have to do when you're thinking about that. Because also Jencap still acquires companies.
That's
right?
the thing is, you know, you have a plan and then you acquire 3 new companies and then the plan changes, which is fine. Where, you know, you do have to kind of treat it, even though we're upwards of $2+ billion company, you have to still sort of treat it as a startup.
Yeah.
And be super flexible. But I mean, we really had the buy-in of all the key players. It was just a matter of how we were going to do it. And operationally, I would say, is really the biggest challenge of most rebrands, because that requires restructuring. And, you know, we have almost 1,000 employees. So there's a lot at stake to mess up and to get right. So I think that to the best of our ability, we were really thoughtful in our approach and not taking on too much too soon. But from an outward-facing marketing perspective, it's incredible. I was in meetings this week, and so many of our traders and brokers say, everyone knows who Jencap is now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's a good thing. We get positive
That
feedback.
makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Warm
really, I mean, it's really nice to see the plan come together.
Yeah.
And all of the reasons why we went about it at the onset of this year are coming to life. I mean, they have been for months and months, but it's really nice to be sitting in December looking back at the timeline of what we accomplished from January to now and seeing the fruits of that labor already, and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
So that's definitely energizing.
That's awesome. And I know a little bit about what you've done, and so I have a question for you because I think it could be helpful to people listening. So going through this, you know, thought about how we bring multiple brands together and look at them, because you have kind of 3 types of companies, and you know, so you've got companies that become Jencap, and so those companies are sort of getting brought into the larger umbrella. You have what are called transitional, so they're in a buyout period, so they may still keep their brand, but it harkens to the Jencap kind of look and feel and approach. And then you have what we call hybrids, right? Which are going to be ones that are going to stand kind of over time in their own category or capacity. They
just have such a prevalent brand presence already that it would make no sense to take that away from them.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question: is how do you know? How did you decide? Like, what was the litmus test of, you know, oh, this one should just roll up, this one should stay in transition, this one should, you know, remain as a hybrid? What were some of the things that you looked at?
Well, it's all. If you're not in insurance, it's probably not that interesting. But for what we do in insurance, we really have 3 buckets and 3 areas of specialization, which include specialty programs, binding authority business, and wholesale brokerage business. So what drove that, the transitional brand piece is easy because that's just earn out.
Yeah.
Our CEO has been, what he says he's going to do, he will do. He will stand by his promises. He will not break those promises. He's a man of his word, which is incredible. But to date, as he's, you know, gone about these acquisitions, he said, I'll leave you alone during your earnout. There'll be a logo treatment change and brand guidelines and colors and just vanity things so that once we flip the switch to Jencap, it won't be a marked change for their agency base. So the transitional brand piece was easy. If you're in your earnout, then we're going to leave you alone. But we have identified you as a brand that would benefit from having the power of the Jencap name.
Right. Okay.
In terms of aggregating carrier dollars and just clout in the marketplace, again, all insurance stuff. But we had a handful of brands that are program brands that have been around for 40, 50 years and are such specialty programs that their name is very prevalent for what they do. It could change. I mean, 2 years from now, it may make sense to rebrand them to Jencap, but in terms of just the true market value of a brand today, what they have is so significant and so successful as it is. It'd be like taking a household name and moving them to a brand that their customer base doesn't know.
Okay.
There's not enough value add for it to make sense. It may later, but to date, that's why we bucketed it.
Yeah, and so those have like brand equity and also maybe some specific thing they do that's just unique. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, because we have lots of conversations with clients who are in a similar place about, is it going to be a branded house, a house of brands, a hybrid, like those types of choices. And that can be, because you want to put as much equity into one, because you're not spreading your dollars too thin, right, or confusing the marketplace. But at the same time, it may make sense. You don't want to screw up a good thing.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So the journey, so it's kind of a year. It's surprising to me it's been a year. It feels like it's either been longer or not that long. I don't know. I can't decide. And I keep talking
Depends on the day.
I keep talking about 2023 with people, and they're like, "There's a 2022 coming." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right."
Whole year of life.
Whole nother year of that. Yeah. So where, if you had to list the challenges for, putting it together or working on it, what were some of the stumbling blocks, or maybe the things that were easier? What did you?
I think again, thanks to Liger, who has helped us with this rebrand. I think that the part that came easy was the redesign itself of the new digital all properties, the new website design, the new brand guidelines, the new color templates and logo, and just all the design aspects of things naturally came together. We didn't all look at the exact same logo and say, that's it. I mean, not to say that it was that easy, but
right.
we came to a consensus in a very intentional and easy way as it related to what our brand was gonna aesthetically represent.
Right.
I guess the biggest challenge is just resources.
Yeah.
When you're growing so fast, and then not only just the day to day, but then you're trying to move. I mean, from an IT perspective, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I really just think resources and bandwidth was the biggest challenge to all stop the million other things that we were all already doing to then take this on. But we did it. Yeah. And with every single rebrand, it got easier, and we had a better playbook, and we knew what to avoid and what to make sure that we considered. And, at the end of the year, even the first and second rebrand are hopefully looking back saying, wow, that was a success, instead of saying, wish you hadn't figured it out on me.
Sad I was the guinea pig, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have a fantastic team at Jencap, so it's not, I'm joking when I'm saying, we just figured it out on the fly. We had very thoughtful plans to all of this. I'm just in jest being silly here, but resources.
Yeah. And
talking in circles.
What's interesting in an M&A situation where you're bringing a bunch of brands or companies together is you end up with duplication of resources in some places. So it's like, oh, now we have more of this. And then you have these huge gaps. Like you've got both going on. Like I've got these people that are very much the same, and do I need all of them? And then there are places where you're trying to connect and you're like, wait, we don't have anybody who's doing that. It's a really interesting, like, feast or famine.
Well, keep in mind, the companies that we rebranded this year have been part of the Jencap family for years. So we haven't yet gotten to a place where Jencap acquires a new company and we flip a switch at acquisition and rebrand them.
Right.
The playbook that's been written is these were companies that we already knew. Those resources and that talent was already known and allocated accordingly. So we haven't gotten there.
Yeah.
They could call me tomorrow and say, we acquired a new company, we need them to rebrand tomorrow, and then we'll figure it out. But
Right.
we were able to do a lot of pre-planning because we already knew the companies that we were rebranding.
Yeah.
So that didn't prove to be a challenge for us because we already had the foresight to know what existed.
Yeah. And so looking forward, because we're kind of coming to the end of the year, beginning of a 2022, and in the seat that you sit in, there's a lot of choice. You got a lot of ways of approaching the brand, of the technology, of the just all the things. So talk to me about the future, things that you see sort of in the future as it relates to marketing for you, or just in general. Like if you were talking to, but you say you're at one of these networking events you went to when you were selling furniture. And you talk to someone else who maybe is a year behind you or you're commiserating with, what are some of the things you're thinking about, concerned about, or trends that you see kind of going into next year?
So for us specifically at Jencap, what I'm most looking forward to in the year ahead, so much of 2021 was establishing a presence just for our name. Mm-hmm. Not every unique intricacy and thing that makes us just incredible at what we do. Just who are you?
Right.
Do you exist? I'm going to see your name and I'm going to know exactly the companies that make that up, the people that make that up. So much of our efforts in 2021 were at that highest level of establishing brand recognition. Mm-hmm. And so in 2022, we're able to be much more strategic and dig deeper in how we're going to go about marketing Jencap. And the part that's really fun for me, which is funny to be sitting here on a podcast with you, is we have so many unbelievable brokers that make up the Jencap organization, and they're not all things to all people. They are truly industry specialists in what they do, and I can't wait to highlight them and really, really get our unique specialization to the marketplace instead of that bigger blanket of here's who we are, here's what we do, let's dig deep now. I want to see their name in lights because our competitors, I see them all over the place in articles for our, key insurance publications and being asked to be keynote speakers and be part of these podcasts. And nothing makes me more frustrated because I know the people that we have internally and I'm like, God, they're so much better.
Yeah.
They really, really, really know what they're doing. So I can't wait to, we have a really thoughtful plan for 2022 surrounding that. We have a unique opportunity to better leverage some digital platforms that we're going to be launching at Jencap. It's all about data and being able, everything needs to be tracked. Everything needs to be clickable. You need to be able to see an ROI, which is tough in the marketing world.
Oh, yeah.
You live it every day. You have execs and you're asking for a lot of money for marketing and they say, show me what you did. Show me how much money you made me. And fortunately, what's interesting about what's happening in the insurance space is it is actually moving to new places. One of our largest insurance publications is going completely digital and completely foregoing their print magazine, which is very successful. There was nothing wrong with it. It was the one that every insurance person would pick up and read, but their advertisers wanted data to measure the value of the money that they were putting into it. So that's great for me because those are obviously things that I want, but
right.
That part will be helpful. We're moving to some digital platforms for email blast distribution and things that will allow for more personalization, that will allow us to really see what people want to hear from us instead of we joke and say,
spray and pray.
Spray and pray.
Spray and pray.
That's a lot of what happens in marketing, and we've invested in some technology in a couple of different areas that we can be very intentional with the content that we send to someone, knowing that that's exactly what they want to hear from us, and we can track our value in a much more thoughtful way.
Yeah, and that makes so we have a acronym that we use here at Liger, and it's not Ligerish yet, so it's BATCOM. So it sounds like we're Batman and Robin, but BATCOM. So companies have to establish your brand, then you establish awareness, then you drive traffic and conversion, optimize and maintain. So those are the steps you have to take. And you guys have definitely been in that brand and awareness. So moving into 2022, it'll be fun to start driving traffic and conversion, seeing kind of what we can do with some messaging and some flows. So yeah.
Well, and I'm a results driven person, so it's not good enough for me either to say, well, everyone knows who we are now.
Right.
Who's everyone? Is it all of the right people?
Right.
And are they thinking all of the right thing?
Uh-huh.
The things that keep marketers up at night is, you hear great feedback, but you want it to be quantifiable. So fortunately,
You say that like we do. One of the exercises in our strategy is like macro and micro trends. And I say, hey, you're not big enough to make a macro and micro trend. Jencap might be big enough to make a macro and micro trend, and it could be bad, right?
Yeah.
Just because everybody knows it, we want to make sure it's for the right reasons, that it's driving the kind of business results you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're in such a position of strength as we move into 2022. So again, it's in a really exciting place to be because we've laid the foundation, and now we just have to build this big, beautiful palace, just marking our territory, which we already have. We're the 4th largest wholesaler.
Yeah.
It's not like we're the small guys clawing our way to the top. We're a force to be reckoned with as it is, but there's so much more low-hanging fruit for us to take advantage of. That's the great place that we are.
Yeah, you just got to own. You got to own what you got already.
Yeah,
own it.
kick our competitors' asses to the curb. You've been playing in this space all this time. Get out of the way.
Here we come.
Yep.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. See, that wasn't too bad.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And you're going to start doing some interviews yourself moving into next year, right?
I sure am.
I love it. Highlighting your people and thought leadership and getting those stories out there.
Yep. We've got a great story to tell. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you've been listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzcott, Chief Strategist with Liger Partners. I've been talking today with Kathryn Smith. She's the Managing Director, right? Managing Director of Jencap Marketing. Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Claw podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, rate and review this podcast. And if you or someone you know wants to make an appearance on this show, email us at yourbestie@ligerpartners.com.